What is up, Bat Family? Welcome to a brand new The Batman 2 discussion series video, but also a teeny tiny little update for some The Batman universe news, if you will, in general, and we're going to start off with that. If you happen to be brand new here, I always do this every video just in case. What we do with the discussion series is that we keep the hype alive. There's so many ideas and imaginative kind of creative theories, if you will, going into this Batman universe, whether that is from something like a simple spin-off like the Penguin series to that of the Arkham series to also that of where we left off with the Batman movie launching into the Batman 2. I literally take your direct comments quite often off the latest previous video that is of the discussion series and talk about why I think something might work, why it might not work in this universe, give my own ideas, also take into account yours and how that could really influence one of my own theories and everything like that. You get the picture. Before we get onto those really fascinating questions that you guys have got in for this week, let's talk about the latest picture coming out of the prequel comic. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, by the way, do not forget that Paul Dano himself, the Riddler of the Batman movie, is writing a Riddler Year 1 comic book. Now, you may remember seeing me break this down from this DCComics.com page saying Paul Dano to write Edward Nashton's path to becoming the Riddler in a new DC Black Label limited series. For all kinds of reasons, that makes me very excited. Black Label, more mature, and also, again, I don't break down comics really often, if at all, on this channel. That's something I might do in the future, don't get me wrong, but I am dead-ass excited for this. Like, I think it's obvious as to why. I think even big fans of the Batman who might not read comics that much will just be so fascinated for my breakdowns on this to learn all the little bits of canonical information we've got about this character. And also, there are answers that need to be filled in. For example, this Riddler Year 1 comic book could get into how Riddler found out that Falcone was the rat. I mean, of course, he's a forensic accountant. Sure, it's going to get into stuff like that. As I've mentioned in previous videos, it's completely believable as to how Riddler found out that the Gotham Renewal Fund had, like, these crucial members that of the DA corrupt, the mayor corrupt, the commissioner corrupt, etc., etc. But there's still missing gaps, like, how did he know, though, that Falcone was the rat, if that's something that is being kept really hush from the police department, no pun intended there, you know, as like a witness kind of protection-y kind of ratty protection thing. Also, how did he know about the Edward Elliot report that he was making on Martha Wayne, of which Thomas Wayne was really paranoid about? That report never surfaced. Like, that reporter was killed. That was only really kept between Thomas Wayne and Falcone. These are little kind of tiny micro issues in the film that we never really got to figure out as to how did Riddler actually know that? And the excuse of, oh, Riddler's just smart, really intelligent, isn't really an answer. Like, how does he know if Edward Elliot never published that report and Thomas Wayne only went to Falcone to get him to help him to kind of scare this reporter, Edward Elliot? Like, how does Riddler know something that happened so long ago and something that never really surfaced in the media or anything like that? So I'm hoping for some kind of answers like that in a Riddler Year 1 comic book. But I digress. Let's get on to the main thing here, because this is where we have the European illustrator, Steven Shubik, I probably butchered the last name, I do apologize, making his DC debut. And on his Twitter, he has been posting some very interesting pictures. Now, I can't guarantee this, but I am assuming that these are images of Batman in the Riddler Year 1 comic. It is hashtagged, literally, Riddler Year 1, so I think that's a safe assumption to make. Again, just putting out there, could be wrong, but I just wouldn't be surprised. Now, this could, for all intents and purposes, be Batman from Riddler's perspective. He's really fascinated by Batman. As we know in the movie, he was absolutely, almost romantically crushed, even as described by Matt Reeves, when, you know, he says, like, you're a psychopath, and, like, you know, we had Edward's reaction, like, completely, basically breaking down, crying almost, with Bruce's, or should I say Batman's, rejection. So this is the period where he was inspired by Batman, and he's imagining probably what he looks like. Of course, somewhere floating in between the canon, I guess you could say, there are police sketches of the Batman as seen in the newspaper clippings and stuff like that. So this could just be from Riddler's perspective. This doesn't make this actually what Batman necessarily looked like in year one, but I do want to acknowledge with the latest picture here, it does look very similar to the various concept art pieces of the Batsuit in the Art of the Batman concept art book, which I'm going to make some videos about, by the way. I've been meaning to do that for a while. But also, like, there's this Twitter post showing some more concept art here that you're seeing on screen, and the newest tease or photo from what appears to be Riddler year one. Again, it's hashtagged, so I think he's very much so dropping hints there, and it's kind of obvious that it probably is. Looks literally like this concept art here, as shown by the Art Ludique Le Musée. I'm not French, so I have no idea how to say that. But yeah, this is concept art for the Batsuit as well, when they were obviously thinking, hey, what do we want the Batsuit to look like in the Batman? And as you can tell, like, the Bat emblems here are extremely, extremely, extremely similar. That's not the Bat emblem from the movie, obviously the knife that he uses. Now, there are subtle differences in this new artwork from Riddler year one. Also, it appears to be from Riddler year one. The cape is going down across his shoulders. In the concept art, it's kind of going behind the shoulder pads, so that's something to bear in mind. But I'm just saying that one could say that Batman did wear a slightly different suit during this canonical Riddler year one comic, and maybe this could be a look at that year one suit. I do think that is kind of reaching to say, though, because what is more likely here is that Riddler's never seen the Batman in person. Again, in the movie, that kind of backs that. When he saw his mask for the first time, he was geeking out over it. So what the artist has probably done here is maybe taken some reference from the concept art suits for the Batman, because obviously they make a bunch of different designs before finally coming up with this suit that we actually saw in the movie. Because again, this does look very similar. You're probably seeing them side by side. That symbol looks very samey to the symbol we see from the concepts for the suit in the movie. But at the same time, it's also very likely that this just happens to look like that, and he was drawing like an obscure kind of emblem from that of the Riddler's imagination of the Batman, like his true self, as the Riddler says, and this is what he imagined him to look like. So I do like playing devil's advocate there, but long story short, it honestly could be a look at the Batman, genuinely Bruce Wayne's in Matt Reeves' universe of the Batman, first Batsuit that he went out with. It is also possible that this could actually be a scene of the Batman in the Riddler Year One comic book, because even though I've already pitched you this could just be from the Riddler's perception, who's to say that there aren't actual panels of the Batman going out there in the Riddler Year One comic that isn't from Riddler's perspective? Maybe they just do a few panels, a couple of pages where Batman genuinely is going out there. And that would obviously, if that is the case, reflect that, oh, this is a different suit. But at the same time, I do think it's more likely that if you're looking at Batman here, if this is a Riddler Year One comic, this probably is more likely just from Riddler's perspective. And as a result, that doesn't mean that just because we're seeing a little bit of a different Batsuit for Pattinson's Batman here, for the Riddler Year One comic, that it is actually a different suit. It's probably actually not. And just to, before anyone asks as well, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, Riddler Year One doesn't necessarily mean it's Batman Year One, because during the events of the film, it's Batman Year Two, and I do remember Matt Reeves saying that is around 1 year, 6 months in. You know, 6 months into Year Two. That makes sense. So Riddler Year One doesn't take place like ages and ages and ages before the movie. In fact, it's probably leading up to the events sometime before the movie, but not like years and years and years and years, even though I'm not ruling out flashbacks. Riddler Year One still technically is Riddler Year One in the movie. Does that make sense? So like he goes to kill the mayor, that is technically Riddler Year One. But that can also still bleed into Batman Year One, because if Batman is in Batman Year Two, 1 year, 6 months in, well, if this comic book, Riddler Year One, takes place even 6 months before the movie and sometime before that, that would kind of make him in Batman Year One as well. Do you know what I mean? So I just wanted to chuck that out there. The timeline of the comic book isn't like mega known right now, but Riddler Year One is the name of the comic book, and technically Riddler is in Year One in the movie, so it's probably and maybe the months leading up to the movie when he's really cementing his plan into place for what he's going to do, take out the mayor, then the commissioner, and things like that. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because some people are saying this is Batman Year One suit, or to put it another way, some people are saying like this clearly shows that he had another suit. There are arguments for it, there are arguments against it. I would probably lie, bottom line on that. Batman doesn't really have another suit, and Batman has been wearing this suit, as we see in the movie, the whole time. It's just that this is Riddler's perception of the Batman from that of maybe glimpses of police sketches, newspaper kind of things, and whatnot. And it just happens to look like, and maybe is referenced from that of actual concept art from the movie of alternative suits before they actually finally made their final choice for the one they picked for the film. But now, let's get into the discussion series. Been rambling about the comic book for a little bit. Very excited for it. Let me know if you are down in the comments, and do know that I will be covering it. So, from Drazen Ducat saying, I would love to see Harley Quinzel introduced in this world, especially since the Joker is already in Arkham. Seeing her as his psychiatrist and eventually turning into Harley Quinn, I'm sure Reeves would do an amazing job, and this could be transformed into a truly terrifying psychological thriller. I love Harley as a character, but I always wanted to see her in a less cartoony and quirky version. This setting would be perfect for that. Also, she could have a slower development similar, as you described, for Harvey/Two-Face. I know what you mean, I really do, and I would like to see this as well. However, I don't know if it should be concentrated on in the movies, and I only say that knowing that we're getting an Arkham series, and Reeves hinting that it's very possible that some stories could come back, and he was talking about with regards to Joker in the Arkham space. So take that as you will. And I'm not saying that Barry Keoghan's Joker is going to be a series regular in the Arkham show that we are literally getting. It is in development. But I do agree with you. I know whenever we talk about stuff like this, people are like, oh, Joker, like, you know, Joker fatigue, Harley fatigue. I kind of disagree with the whole Joker fatigue thing. I've spoke about this many times. I do feel like it's kind of like I don't know if the right word is really a Mandela effect kind of thing, and I'm not invalidating anyone's fatigue here if you really are kind of sick of the Joker, but I don't think he has been overused, if you think about it. Like, Nicholson, a long time ago. You know, technically Dark Knight, that was a long time ago. And in between that, we got Leto, which, yeah, sure, you may think was lame, but in small drib drabs, and other than that, of Joaquin Phoenix, do you know what I mean? Like, there hasn't actually been as much as people like to think, other than if you include Gotham. But again, so like, especially by the time these movies come out, like which is a few years away, I think people will be ready to see a Joker. But like, again, I'm getting a bit off topic here. I don't think there is a Joker fatigue, and he is one of my favorite villains, and I'm not saying this out of bias either, because I do think that story of Harleen, Joker, again, I'm not saying shove Joker in our faces as the main villain in the second movie or the third movie. I'm just saying that Drazen's comment here is something I do resonate with. But what I would say, whether you're going to do whatever Reeves is going to do with Joker or Harleen or Harley, if at all, by the way, Harley, more likely Joker, obviously, in the movies, should always be facilitated, I think, first, especially when you are doing an Arkham haunted house that is Arkham, as Reeves said himself, the haunted house that is Arkham show. You may as well kind of facilitate it there. Now, this is where you get people saying, oh man, like, but there's not going to be a psychologist or psychiatrist who falls in love with this Joker. He looks horrific. But I actually say, on the contrary, my friend, like, this kind of would show how twisted Harley could get, and, you know, the seeds being planted for how somehow with Joker, and again, as Reeves likes to say, and this is true to the character anyway, through people being afraid to look at him his whole life, etc., he knows how to get in your head. He kind of revels in that uncomfortable aspect. So he's very clever, extremely clever and intelligent, as we know of the Joker. So especially with Barry Keoghan being kind of a younger actor, and this Joker in general coming off a little bit more of a kiddie kind of Jerome Joker compared to that of Heath Ledger's Dark Knight, a bit more of a seemingly looking older Joker, even though seemingly, ironically enough, he was younger than Barry Keoghan. My point is, he could still get into Harleen's head. Do you know what I mean? I do believe that. I do think it'd be so cool, because we've never seen it. I know the Suicide Squad, or should I say Suicide Squad, did get into like flashbacks of Margot Robbie's Harley, but no way near, like, I would say like it was almost like complimentary. It was like over before it started kind of thing. We've never really seen the interviews. We've never seen full-on dialogue, other than that scene where they just kind of leant over and was smiling at each other. It was over before it started. That's what I mean. So this is why I refer back to the Arkham show. If Matt Reeves has the confidence and just the wanting to do it in the first place, this is his creation at the end of the day. If he wants to do in the Arkham space interviews with the Joker, there is so much rich opportunity there to get Harleen Quinzel to be slowly but surely, not even realize it, because this is one of the things, especially about Barry Keoghan's Joker, that he's wormed his way into your head before you realize it, like he's already there sitting down comfortably. And that's actually, funnily enough, what happened to Batman. I always say this in that deleted scene video. Sure, Batman went there to profile the serial killer that is the Riddler through that of another killer, Joker. But the whole conversation from Joker was actually wanting to get into Batman, and he didn't realize that up until a certain point. Sure, he gave him some, like, you know, he's a nobody who wants to be a somebody, but very quickly Joker kind of got like almost ADD, bored of that, and wanted to reflect it back on Batman. Oh, you're so much more fun, as he says himself. But that started almost a little bit earlier. He was worming his way in, and then by the time Batman caught on, he was already in his head, already frustrated, and like, you're wasting my time. You know, we're not talking about me. Let's get back to him. But Joker, that was his thing. So what I'm trying to say is, I do feel like Joker's intelligence there and his way of worming in and charming, despite his horrific look, seriously, could be done with Harleen, and I think that is more relevant than ever with someone like Harleen. If anything, Joker's grotesque look with his congenital disease, it's more fascinating of a story as to how Harley, or should I say Harleen, becomes Harley Quinn and likes the look of this clown. One thing I see all the time is that some people think that Barry Keoghan's Joker, and this is kind of frustrating, it's like, that's not Joker at all. It's like they've only seen Joker where it's almost like his face is painted, like smooth-skinned Jared Leto with lipstick, almost, right? But it's almost like because they've seen that, they think that's all Joker, but like, Joker has been grotesque in more than so many iterations than what I can count. Honestly, just like the whole Batman argument of like a new 52 slimmer, agile MMA kind of Batman to that of like a big roided Batman, they're both relevant. It's just one of the most frustrating things for me is when I see fans, and I believe they're fans, it's just when they feel like they dictate, like, this is the way the Joker is, and this is so not Joker, this isn't the Joker at all, this isn't Batman at all. They couldn't be more wrong. So with this Joker, he is very Joker, like very Joker. It's just maybe not in the headcanon of your preference, of what you kind of prefer Joker as. But I've been rambling about this part for too much, but getting back to Drazen's comment, I love Harley as a character, but I always wanted to see her in a less cartoony and quirky version. This setting would be perfect for that. I do agree, but, you know, if you're going to do it in the movies at all, only do it as a complimentary scene or two on top of the foundation that you put in the Arkham series. And also, this all depends on if Matt Reeves is even going to make Barry Keoghan's Joker. Yeah, sure, Joker's canon in this universe. He will be dancing back and forth with Pattinson's Batman for decades to come. But that doesn't mean that we're going to see him in the movies, even as a big role. I mean, it's likely that we'll see him again in some way, shape, or form. But let's assume he does make him a bigger role at some point. Then if that's going to happen, I do think the opportunity should be taken, in the way Drazen says here, to flesh out maybe that relationship with Harleen Quinzel in the Arkham space. Again, it doesn't need to be every episode. It doesn't need to be every other episode. I could be talking about the equivalent, seriously, of that of the deleted scene that we got. A few minutes here and there across maybe 2 episodes out of like 8 to 11 episodes. Again, I don't think they're going to make him a regular or like heavily involved in the series. But even that would be incredible. You don't even have to show Harleen getting so seduced by Joker. Like, you really don't. You could just show her interviewing him, being completely objective and non-biased towards this patient she's got, maybe even feels uncomfortable to him, which would show an amazing contrast between Harleen and Harley she turns into. But as we get a couple more scenes, maybe the second scene of the interview or whatever's going on, the psychiatrist kind of interview that she does with him, episode 7 rolls by, we might get Keoghan again in the Arkham series. But this time he says something that she doesn't love him, she doesn't feel attracted to him yet or anything like that, but it just makes her smile. Maybe it was like a smirky, quippy kind of comment that she found almost charming in a way. And again, this doesn't drastically change her opinion of him at all. But it's just a subtle seed that as what Matt Reeves, I think, tends to do here, and what he's commented about before, is he likes doing certain things like that, which will make fans think, oh, was that? Does that mean that? In where you can envision it down the line. I think that would be the very much more creative, smart choice to do if bringing Harleen into this universe at all. And if you do, bottom line here, as I said, do it in the Arkham series. I'm not saying oversaturate the Arkham series with that character or Joker, but if you are going to do it, take the opportunity to have patients interviewed. Like, this is, you know, for the criminally insane. It's a state hospital, like Arkham State Hospital. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, do that. Have her completely detached from the character she's going to become, but plant a seed or two where you see her, like, almost unprofessionally laugh. You know, find whatever he said funny. And fans will know where that is heading. And that doesn't mean, if Joker does break out, by the way, to be in one of the future movies, that Harleen is even going to be Harley Quinn. Do you see my vision here? It could just be like, oh, she knows that patient now, maybe he breaks out, but like he comes back in, and she's still working there, and their interviews continue over the years. It could be a long, a grinding process to turn Harleen into Harley Quinzel. It just because there's those seeds planted, maybe in the Arkham series episodes, or a couple of scenes very barely shown at all, but, you know, something that is amazing for fans to imagine where this is going to go one day. Doesn't mean that when Barry Keoghan's Joker breaks out, let's say, to be a villain in the third movie, that he's going to be accompanied by her. No. It just means that he will return one day, she'll continue the therapy or whatever, but a seed was indeed planted. That's all I need. Like, they don't need to make them a duo just because we see Harleen in the Arkham series talking to Barry Keoghan's Joker. It's just, there's a rapport built there that will only be going in a destination that fans know and love. Again, a big thing with Reeves, with this universe, especially with this movie, but even as it continues on, I believe, is the foundation of everything. The foundation of the Riddler, literally. Very newbie Riddler we got in this movie. Very characteristic Selina. Not even got the moniker of Catwoman, but every characteristic of Catwoman is there. Same with Joker. He's not even called the Joker, yet he's got every characteristic of the Joker. And the same will be the case, I think, for other villains in the future movies. If we get Mr. Freeze, very early version of him. Same with everything else. I've been going on forever, but I would love to see it, and I would like, as you said in your final lines, and she could have a slower development. Again, I don't even need her to become Harley Quinn. Just set up that cool-ass interaction. That'll be enough for me. And maybe if, you know, let's just say that Barry Keoghan's Joker does get back into Arkham after he's a villain in one of the Batman movies, and when Batman puts him away, he's back in his cell, and then, like, Harleen turns up at the door for one of their appointments, and he just smiles. And maybe she slightly smiles. That could be like a closing scene. I don't know. Oh man, the ideas are crazy. This is why I love making these videos, even though I do ramble a lot. So up next is from Aya Toes. So the Batsuit doesn't need to change much, in my opinion. New gadgets, subtle changes / improvements here and there, and that's it. His look should remain consistent throughout the saga. So I kind of agree. I know there's so many opinions about this. I honestly absolutely think that this is the best Batsuit ever made. Again, I will hold my hands up here. In my Batman suit ranking video, I think I mentioned this in a recent discussion series, this was made during 2020, where we'd only seen a bit of the Batman. Like, obviously, like the film wasn't coming out for another 2 years. But I thought, okay, we know what it looks like now. And at that time, in 2020, it was so, I even state this in the video, like Ben Affleck's Batman suit, the Dark Knight Returns kind of vibe that they were going for it. And the only brief glimpse that we got of the Batsuit during 2020, early 2020 that is, I was like, I think I still have to give it to Ben Affleck. So this is why I probably have to do an updated one, because now, obviously, I have every opportunity to see this Batsuit in every single minuscule kind of angle. I would choose Robert Pattinson's Batman suit any day. And I've seen it in person as well. It is just, I think it's incredible. Yet, this is so subjective. People do, honestly, I still see tweets today saying that cowl is absolutely hideous, or even excluding the cowl, the whole suit is ridiculous, some people say. But I love this suit so much. It looks so good. It looks so tactical, so practical. I could ramble with my passion about the Batman suit forever. The way it looks on Pattinson here, with the kind of torso plates, makes him look so much bigger as well, in like a cool way. This is why I've always said, like, Pattinson is big enough for that kind of MMA kind of fighter, quick and agile Batman in of itself. That's why I'll defend Pattinson's physique till my dying breath because it is still a relevant Batman. There are all kinds of relevant Batmen out there. There are really chunky, muscular Batmen in various stories, kind of like Frank Miller's Batman, but then there's like New 52 agile Batman. So like, I wish people didn't think that there's only one Batman and he has to be a roided up kind of, no. So let me just get that rant and ramble out the way. But again, this suit, the torso plate looks amazing. I love how the shoulder pauldrons complement it. The cape, it's just so good. It's so good. I understand criticisms maybe about cargo pants because that's not so maybe kind of protective, you could argue. So maybe upgrades like that could happen. I think the look of it's still amazing, but yeah, you could argue that if he gets shot in like the thigh or something like that. Some people might say that maybe the non-commercial tech that Wayne Enterprises has gave him access to kind of some kind of weaved material of those pants where it might be bulletproof in a way, because in the prequel novel, even his gloves are bulletproof, but even then, if you were to get shot, it would leave some horrendous major bruise. But again, I'm rambling way too much here. I'm just getting into the passion that is the Batsuit in this question, because you're saying the Batsuit doesn't need to change much. I do agree, but subtle changes can of course be made, and that is expected. Like Batman, when he's only in year 2 right now, is only going to evolve. Like literally, that is the only destination, and that will be reflective of the way he chooses to go out there with what protection he has. So I agree with you there. New gadgets, 100% agree. Like, he has the little bombs that he put on the pipe that granted the smoke in that situation to where he did that little rugby takedown. But how about he's thinking now, actually, I want to get some kind of dispensable smoke like that. That would be great. That is a natural progression. I think Matt Reeves will follow that organic evolution of his gadgets and Batsuit, and that is a perfect case in point there with the theatricality and deception of smoke that gave him the idea to maybe have those new gadgets. Subtle changes, I do agree. Maybe, I love the cowl, but maybe they could change the material a little bit, but I do love it, I understand it. They wanted to go for more of a self-made look, hence the kind of leather stitching there, even though underneath it obviously has kind of a sheet of some kind of hard material that can deflect bullets, because he got hit in the head like more than once in this movie by a bullet. There was the time where obviously Penguin was shooting bullets with Selina opening the trunk of that car. There was the time where Batman was taking out all of Riddler's henchmen and it ricochets off of him and goes off of his head. So clearly it's bulletproof, but you could argue maybe they might make it a bit more reflective of the torso plate armor. I don't know about that personally, but I'm there and willing to see it. His look should remain consistent throughout the saga. Yeah, maybe even the wingsuit, instead of just being a little bit of a wingsuit, it's more of a glider like you see in the concept art. I'm not talking like Dark Knight kind of glider, even though it can be reminiscent of that, but kind of something that isn't necessarily as techy as Lucius Fox, but something that actually does kind of like flap out into a glider and into kind of a winged bat-esque kind of look. The Batsuit is always going to be something, even for fans, an opinion that is always in flux. Like, it's one of the most kind of eye candy things about the Batman property in general when it comes to movies, TV shows, or just anything, comics. So let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think that, like with Aya Toes here, saying that his look should remain consistent throughout the saga, do you agree? But just because maybe it should be consistent in this comment here, that doesn't mean it can't have upgraded materials. It's just that maybe the symbol should always kind of look the same, even if the actual symbol knife part of it changes. Do you think the cowl should have an upgraded material, albeit the ears being still at the same length and everything like that? Things like that. Do you think the cape going over the way it does with the collar should remain the same? Or do you want massive changes? Do you think there should be really big changes like that of the Batman Begins suit to that of the Dark Knight suit? Like complete different emblem changes there. I don't want that personally. I love this bat symbol. Some people say they want ears on it, and that's one of the few things that annoyed them. There are actually ears on it. It's just they're so small on the knife there. I understand changes like that if they want slightly enlarged parts like that. But for me, it's really important. Not that it would ruin anything, but I want the symbol, and I kind of agree with Aya here that I want a consistent look like this, but I wouldn't be opposed to, like, you know, those straps turning into blades, etc., etc. So, Thunder! We have seen a Dick Grayson character in Titans and all that, but I want to see him paired up with Batman. So do you think we might see his origin in sequel, and that might even motivate Bruce Wayne to help Gotham City after the death of the Graysons? Yeah, I do get the desire to see Grayson paired up with Batman, and I feel that way as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I would have this universe if I could dictate this. I would, and as so long as everyone else is happy involved, like Pattinson and the other actors, I'll be like, yeah, 6 movies, we're doing this. Like Star Wars 1 to 6, we're doing it. We're doing it. Like, it's happening. And so that way, I wouldn't feel like I have to put Robin in the first 3 movies, because as you guys should know by now, I'm very apprehensive of that. So I usually say, if you're going to do him, do not do him in the second movie, way too premature, but you can maybe seed him in the second movie at the end to kind of set up for a third movie. But if I had my way, 6 movies, then, oh my god, not even in the first 3 movies, and then as we go throughout 4, 5, 6, then there's so much breathing room there to build him up and get to Robin in the 4th, the 5th. But do I think, as you ask, we'll see his origin in sequel? I don't know. Like, sequel means, yeah, number 2. You could, as I've said before, if Reeves and Pattinson's Batman are going to do this, then, and I wouldn't want him in the second movie, like brought in already Robin, anything like that, that's insanely rushed. So if you're going to do him, I've said this once, I'll say it again, that at the closing part of the movie, maybe you have Andy Serkis' Alfred, Pattinson's Bruce Wayne, going to the Flying Graysons at the end of the movie, like genuinely for some kind of entertainment or something or the other, and then the final shot of the movie is the robe of his parents, you know, cutting and then falling to their death, and it just fades to black, or even abruptly cuts to black. But also, before that happens, you see Bruce staring at the kid, Dick Grayson, just like he did with the mayor's son on the crime scene and in the cathedral, and fans know where that's going, and then boom, a couple of years or so between now the second and third movie, production starts, blah blah blah, picks up in the third movie with them maybe already at a certain point. So that's my vision. If you're going to do Robin, don't do him in the second movie up until the very end, cuts off on Bruce's face. You're seeing my vision now, I'm sure, in your imaginations. And then in the third movie, it facilitates a bit of a Batman and Robin thing. But everyone's opinions are very mixed on this. I do think it should be Dick Grayson if they're going to choose any Robin. I do see the relevance of how this furthers Bruce's psychological arc, 100,000%. Robin, especially Dick Grayson, is very fundamental for teaching Bruce some hard, stubborn-ass lessons that he doesn't always naturally get if he never had a Robin. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. Might help motivate Bruce. There's so many good reasons to include Robin with Robert Pattinson's Batman. It's just, I wish I could tell you we're getting 6 movies, and then I'd be like, oh, 1000% Reeves will be doing Robin then. Yeah, easily. But like, maybe not in the first 3 movies, 4th, maybe 5th, around about there. But when I just think of it in the first 3, it's just a lot harder to sell other than that vision I just gave. But even with that vision that fits great, I would still apply that vision to the 4th movie. That would be my preference. Like, the Flying Grayson thing happens there at the end of the 3rd movie, or at the end of the 4th movie, more particularly there. And then it, you know, ends on Bruce's face looking at the kid, and then you know where that's going in the 5th movie. Great, right? But to put that in the end of the 2nd movie, again, if we're only getting 3 movies, if they're absolutely doing Robin, I guess that's where it'd be for me. But so many people would be like, oh man, but like, are we really having, even though so many people want this, a Batman and a Robin in the movie, but they might feel like it takes away from certain things or what they can do, how are they going to really adapt it? So do I think we might see his origin in the sequel? It's possible at the very, very, very end of the movie. Of course, it could be at any other point in the movie. They could just, I don't know, Bruce could, that could be like a really slow burn story throughout the 2nd movie where they go to the Flying Graysons earlier on, and Bruce just can't stop thinking. He doesn't make the decision to adopt Dick Grayson right away. He actually leaves that. But throughout the movie, in maybe battling Mr. Freeze, you know, whatever plot you have set up in your head, he can't stop thinking about the kid. Like, he's trying to actually get it out of his head, and we have him do all these bits and bobs, and then he speaks to Alfred again, 3/4 of the way through the movie. I can't stop thinking about what happened at the Flying Graysons. Do you know what I mean? Something like that, and then it ends off with the kind of concept I gave you with him adopting Dick Grayson. But I'm really kind of 50-50 on it right now. I think it could easily not happen. There's a bunch of reasons as to why he might not do that, honestly, that I haven't even gotten to right now. But then there's 50% it could happen. It's like, hey, how about I actually leave my mark on this? How about I actually do adapt this? And if he does, I still don't think it's going to be a 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy. Again, when you ground that in reality, as much as so many people watching this right now will want to see that, there's so many weird ethical reasons that don't translate as well from that of a cartoon or a comic book into that of live action, where again, there's going to be people commenting right now saying, oh no, but Boba, this just shows how Pattinson's Bruce's mind is all this, that, and the other. But like, no, like, trust me, if he brought in a 14-year-old even, or a 15-year-old, it would still be like, and I'm talking like an actor who also looks like a kid who's 14, 15. It doesn't adapt as well. It actually makes Bruce look to be really damn awkward. But I would believe more of a, again, I'm not saying Timothée Chalamet, like, I'm not saying like he needs to be Robin, but someone who looks that age, who might be aged down to like 17 turning 18, but I still think that's how Reeves would tackle it. Again, I know some people might also bring up, oh yeah, but Reeves and Pattinson have said, like, or Pattinson said, oh yeah, but Robin has to be in it and he has to be a kid. That's just Pattinson having fun there, and Matt Reeves saying, oh yeah, you know, absolutely, if we do that kind of thing. That doesn't really mean much at the end of the day. That doesn't mean he's confirming he would do a kid Robin. I do think, just to give you an idea, if he does do a Robin, it'll be kind of an aged down, kind of typical actor thing when they're maybe in their early 20s but could get away with playing a 17, 18-year-old. That is crossing or walking the ethical line, but is somewhat understandable. They might go as far as 16 in universe, but it's not going to be 13. I'll hold my hands up if I'm wrong, by the way, and I'll be so intrigued to see how they're going to pull that off. So intrigued. So I'm not ruling out a younger Robin, by the way. I want to make that clear. But my intuition kind of tells me for now that, for example, Billy from Stranger Things, that kind of age, he played like an 18-year-old technically in Stranger Things. That kind of look of a guy playing an age down kind of Robin, being Dick Grayson. But could be wrong, and I'll be blown away. I'll be actually blown away if Matt Reeves has the balls to be like, you know what? We are doing an Umbrella Academy style kind of Aidan Gallagher, young, season 1 Aidan Gallagher, that is, from Umbrella Academy, looking Robin, maybe even younger looking than Aidan Gallagher, who's actually 12, 13. I would be so intrigued as to see how he's going to pull that off. But again, I do think it compromises a lot of grounded aspects that he is striving for. I really do. It's just, you really going to bring a 12-year-old, like 6th, 7th grader kind of kid to fight criminals who could shoot him with. It's just, no matter how messed up you want to view Bruce, there's suspended disbelief in comics medium and stuff like that, and animated series, and then there's doing a film. And that's why I choose to believe that if they're doing a Robin, it'll be like kind of what I said, Billy, Stranger Things type of actor who obviously is way older than 18, but played an 18-year-old in Stranger Things. You know, Max's older brother, Billy. Also, I think that type of actor would still look absolutely fine as a Robin alongside, you know, a mid-30s type of Pattinson. Plus, by the way, by then, Pattinson would be a few years older. Like, we can't forget that. He's already in his mid-30s now, and by the production of that third movie would be coming out, it'd be like in his late 30s. So, you know, it would still look fine in terms of age differences and appearance of Batman and Robin. This one's more of a comment that I just wanted to talk about from Jake McGowan here, saying that it would be cool to see like an Arkham-style hostage room with the henchmen patrolling around and Batman not necessarily grappling from vantage point to vantage point, but doing stealth and fear-like takedowns, sort of like Arkham Knight, with the thugs getting more and more scared. I do agree, and considering that, you know, we've got 2 whole big-ass, massive, you know, movies coming our way, there is 100,000 million% more opportunity for moments like this that you have to think Matt Reeves will do. I know we didn't get maybe as much combat from Batman as people would have liked to have seen in the first movie, but again, 2 more movies, possibly 2 more movies of almost 3 hours long again. Maybe it might be a teeny bit shorter, but definitely over 2 hours and 15, 20 minutes or whatever. So I think as Batman continues to grow, there will be stealth-like locations and probably a situation where Batman might be kind of, you know, that moment where he's on the rooftop looking over Penguin's operation before Selina arrived and, you know, he had the Batmobile parked and Jim arrived. There could be moments like that where he's overlooking something in a future movie, in a scenario, in the plot, where he does need to take people out quietly. And I do think that Matt Reeves, and I do have a lot of faith in this, at some point won't miss out on that very opportunity to have Batman take people out, maybe grapple back up, or as you said, like crouch around and kind of like snuff someone out in the Arkham way, and that is where thugs are getting scared. So yeah, 100% agree that all those people wanting these Arkham Knight-esque takedowns, even though we technically didn't get that in the first movie. Even though there was Arkham-like combat in certain ways, specifically with takedowns, that will be coming at some point. Like, I would probably lay money on that. RJ Dark Knight says, "Hey Boba, can't stop watching your Batman content. Keep up the great work, the good work. Thank you so much, man. Do you think Matt Reeves will upgrade the Batmobile? And if so, what changes should be made in your opinion?" So with this one, I'm just kind of thinking of kind of previous movies as well. It's like the Tumbler didn't really get an upgrade to my understanding right now. I mean, other than featuring that, oh look, it exploded and then the Bat bike came out of it. It had like new kind of tricks that the audience didn't quite know at the time. That was cool, right? But largely, I feel like Batmobiles have somewhat stayed the same within those respected actors' kind of movies. But with this Batman, definitely with what Matt Reeves has set up already, we expect upgrades, even if subtle, as we were talking about earlier with regards to upgrades, to be made to the suit. And so in turn, will we see upgrades to things like the Batmobile and even the Batbike? I really don't know, because I can imagine that Batbike with the beautiful bat ears on the front there just staying largely the same. This is why I'm really intrigued to see the timeline of these movies with time jumps. Even if they did have big time jumps, which I'm still debating right now. I'm not saying like there's going to be 2 weeks in between movies or anything like that, but I'm just saying, you know, years and years and years. Like, I do still think, like, the Batbike would still be as relevant as it was before. Even though we've got decades, in theory, unless Pattinson's Batman dies at the end of this trilogy, which I hope doesn't happen. In theory, if you want to go the cliche, comical, traditional route, he'll keep going on, right? For years and years, he'll keep going on for decades, dancing with the Joker back and forth, etc., etc. So, even with the time jumps between these movies, I still feel like the Batmobile is relevant. I still feel like the Batbike is relevant. Sure, you could be like, yeah, let's stick a propulsion kind of massive jet engine onto it, but that's already got that technically with the Batmobile when we saw him like pull back the lever, burst through the fire and the flames to finally apprehend Penguin. So do I think Matt Reeves will upgrade the Batmobile? I don't really know. I really do find this an interesting question, because physically, I don't want the look of it to change, and that is something that I think is maybe unlikely. Like, we're talking muscle car here. Will he really change what he's brought back? Because old original Batmobiles were actually way more muscle car-y before they got into the Dark Knight kind of Tumbler, Batfleck, beautiful Batmobile he's got there, etc., etc. They were actually muscle cars back in the early day, or at least looked like more of a muscle car. So the fact that he's brought that in for this first movie, an argument can be made like, sure, yeah, just because he's got a badass Batmobile in this movie doesn't mean that he doesn't have more of a techie upgrade by the third movie, and in the third movie, maybe not the second movie, he actually has a whole new car, one that is akin to more of a technologically advanced one. For example, we might not get Lucius Fox in the second movie. He could still be very self-made there, but in the third movie, he might get him in, and then bang, you get more of a like proper like Rocket League kind of style car. But I still argue it doesn't have to happen. And knowing, not that I know Matt Reeves, but knowing his vision with what he's described, I would expect almost to see it stylistically and what we were talking about earlier to be maintained, at least overall, like in image. Even with suit, sure, subtle upgrades, but with the car, the Batmobile, I expect it to almost be maintained. Now, one thing I will kind of say is like maybe you could liken it to the subtle changes or tricks like the Tumbler kind of revealed to us. Maybe there's new tricks that they show of the Batmobile. Maybe subtle changes, if at all upgraded, as you're saying, what upgrades would be made. Maybe weapons, like not to use fatally against people like Ben Affleck's Batman did through like blowing up cars with people in it, but like maybe to just disable tires or things like that. Or maybe, you know, like one of those police kind of things they lay across the road with the spikes. Maybe there's some kind of device that he's made in between the movies where he presses a button, and it might be old kind of James Bond style gadgets where even Adam Westy, press a button, something comes out, but it's done in a very modern way, which Matt Reeves likes to do with this, where it just kind of lays out spikes, and that will disable cars. I can imagine that. But I feel like I'm going to keep going around in circles now. At the moment, I'm hesitant to believe that the muscle car of the Batmobile will be completely redesigned. I'm hesitant to believe that. Like, when I say redesigned, I mean going from the Batmobile in the Batman to that of a similar or almost even approaching, even if you don't want to get to the end goal of it, but approaching Ben Affleck's Batmobile. I just don't know if I believe that. But I guess I'll end this on, I wouldn't be surprised if the Batmobile was kept largely the same other than subtle gadget upgrades. MF Shogun says, I've literally never felt so heard about a Batman pitch than your thoughts on Come As You Are for the sequel. As Marvel as my idea sounds, it could literally be overlaid with his opening monologue and him riding the bike and going through a montage of fighting C/D-list villains, and then the music calming when he finds like Croc or someone partially important in the beginning before the main movie begins. Yeah, I know what you mean. This is going back to the previous discussion series installment where we talk about what song, if Nirvana at all, because obviously he can choose another artist for a track in the film, but if Nirvana, despite it being like another kind of main kind of Nirvana song, if you will, a popular one, I was going for more of the tone of, well, the reason why I don't necessarily choose Heart-Shaped Box and stuff like that is because sometimes the chorus of songs like that can be quite heavy, and I feel like with Something in the Way, Kurt's voice doesn't really get to like the big ass kind of ripping kind of vocal shouts that he might do in some of his songs. So another song like that would be Come As You Are. Plus, it does lyrically work as well, and I do exactly, you know, to revisit what I was going on about last video, Come As You Are, you know, no, would be such, even if edited like Something in the Way was, especially towards the end of the movie, with the more, you know, reinvigorated, hopeful theme of Something in the Way with the strings, or in the trailer. God, could you imagine what they could do with Come As You Are? And yeah, I can imagine it even opening up the film, facilitating the new Batman that he is now as of the end of the first movie, Come As You Are, As You Were, As I Want You to Be. Plank Gang even says here, honestly, Come As You Are would be perfect as it would represent both Batman and Mr. Freeze. Especially, it'd fit Mr. Freeze perfectly. Come As You Are, As You Were, As I Want You to Be. I don't know, because to me, lyrics resonate his need of bringing back his wife perfectly. A lot of people say the same thing about Heart-Shaped Box, like literally being a more perfect song for Mr. Freeze. And I definitely see what you mean with Come As You Are, even with regards to Mr. Freeze. Come As You Are, As You Were, As I Want You to Be. Like, I definitely agree, but, and the reason why I don't, trust me, Heart-Shaped Box, amazing, but it's just, I don't know if they would be able to edit that down into more of a sullen-y, somber-y kind of tone, like Something in the Way was, and how Come As You Are can fit in the same way Something in the Way fit in softly with the movie, because the whole chorus of hey wait I've got a new complaint might be a bit too heavy, but maybe not, maybe it fits perfectly and they edit it down slightly to be a bit more of a depressing mood. With the chorus of Heart-Shaped Box, like, you know, hey wait I've got, you know, that's quite heavy, and I don't know, maybe that will fit. I think for me, I'm going off of the Underneath the Bridge, and even there's Something in the Way chorus and stuff like that is very kind of not too intrusive to any kind of audience member. It's quite soft, even if you're not a Nirvana fan, still soft. Come As You Are, equally as soft, if you know what I mean, but Heart-Shaped Box, quite hardcore. I wouldn't say hardcore, but you know what I mean, it's a bit more of a in-your-face chorus there, despite the verses being incredibly fitting for a movie. So Frisbee says, would be cool to see Batman disarm goons with Batarang. I think I'm going to end this video off with this one. I agree. No Batarangs in this movie, unless you could argue he could throw his knife. Now, in this book, of which we'll be getting into a video very soon, there are literal Batarangs designed. And of course there would be, you know, this movie, they probably had all kinds of Batman gadgets, of which they did actually, and we'll be getting in some of that, which didn't really make the movie. Maybe they planned to use it. He even has a sticky gun, which he has in a holster, which wasn't even used, like literally Arkham-style sticky gun. So whether they scrapped it and Batarangs actually don't even exist, canonically in the universe just yet, or whether he actually has them but didn't use them, which makes less sense to me, which makes me feel like they conceptualized them, but in the universe they're just putting it off as he doesn't have them right now, despite them literally being designed in this. So keep an eye out for my future video where we get into some discussion about that, but I would agree that I would like to see Batarangs in the next movies. They've literally got designs for them. There's testings that Bruce has even done in the concepts of how he launches them to see how efficient they are at different materials of what they could go into when thrown. I would like to see that as well. I think there's very much so with the subtle upgrades we were getting to in earlier questions of the suit and whether you think Batmobile and just gadgets in general, that will be coming. Same with smoke and theatricality. But yeah, I'm going to end this video here now, guys. Bit of a longer one today. There was so many interesting questions and so many more that I loved reading out and getting into, but also there's so many more I really wanted to get to, but I'll save that for the next discussion series installment. Let me know your thoughts on absolutely everything we got to in today's videos. As always, this is such an interactive series of videos. I love reading your comments. Of course, as always, especially if you got to this point in the video, make sure you leave some questions, whether they're questions expanding on the questions in this video for the next video. Let me know those, or if you have any brand new ones going into the Batman 2, or even if they're spin-off related, like Arkham series, whatever, everything's valid. I will be screenshotting new questions for the next video. If you got to this point in the video as well, leave the hashtag with whatever comment you're going to post down in the comments below. I suppose hashtag come as you are. And I think that's everything. So I'd really appreciate a like. It really helps bolster these videos out in the algorithm a little bit more. That's how you can help these videos get shared on my channel. Of course, you can share them with your friends as well on social media. That goes a long way. If you have any Bat friends out there, you know, waiting to jump on the train to the Batman 2, social media in the links down below of my description of this video. Twitter is my main place. I do have a Discord server where you can actually talk to me personally as well. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see all of you Bat family in the next video. Goodbye.